Let's talk history. I'm Bob Garrett, Lansing Community College's archivist. I invite you to join me on a journey as I delve into the college's past and ponder its meaning. Here on Tales from the LCC Archives. Hello everyone, I am here today with Captain Florene McGlothian-Taylor. And Captain Taylor is a captain with the Department of Police and Public Safety at Michigan State University. And she attended the police academy here in the 1980s, and I'm going to talk to her about that. Just really quick, I think I'd like to talk about how you contacted the archives.
So I ended up contacting the archives because I am going to be retiring shortly here. And it was suggested to me, or the question was asked, are you going to have anything that sort of shows your timeline with the police department and the academy? And I hadn't thought about that. And so I thought, that's a great idea. I remember I was on the cover of the Lansing Community College catalog, and I said, let me contact the archives. And that's how I met you.
Yeah, great. In the archives, found you in the catalog. You were part of like a photo montage on the cover, and I found the photo.
And not only that, you found the photo on the cover, but you also found the Police Academy program and a number of things that you sent me. So I was able to utilize that and turn it over to our department for the reception.
Right, and I thought that was a great sort of story, but then I wanted to have you come here and talk about your experience at LCC, because you were in the police academy here.
Yes, I was. I was in the police academy here, and boy, I have to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. The way I came about learning about the police academy is I had met the former police chief of East Lansing Police Department when I was doing some temp work at CATA. I was doing salary comparison analysis for them. Sort of wanted to do something different after I graduated with my graduate degree from Michigan State University and was just taking a leave at the time. And he suggested applying for the city of East Lansing. He said that at one time they used to sponsor individuals, but it was a little bit different now. Not only do they sponsor, but you have to sign a contract. Because in the past, they had people that they would sponsor and they would gain all this knowledge and so forth. Then they would leave. And so he told me about that. His name was Steve Naird, a wonderful guy. And the date that he gave me, the academy was actually a little bit sooner than what he told me. So it was a lot of quick preparation for the police academy.
Okay.
It seems like it was a matter of months. And with the academy, you know, you have to do push-ups. Didn't know how to do push-ups at the time, I'll be honest. You did a lot of running, not a runner. I do a lot of walking. And so I had to really prepare for that. And I'll be honest with you, knew nothing about police work, knew nothing about the academy. And the first time, and I took the test twice, the first time I didn't make it through. I missed it by a couple of seconds on the running portion of it. But I was determined that that wasn't going to defeat me. And so I went back and I took it again and I made it through to the police academy.
Okay, well, great. What was it about police work specifically that appealed to you at that point?
Well, the main thing was that I didn't see a lot of female police officers in the 80s. And I certainly didn't see any female police officers that looked like myself. And so I thought if I became a police officer, I could be a role model for individuals, for young people who had thought about the profession but didn't know how to go about it or what it was all about. And so this was a way for me to get in and do more for the community as a service.
Okay. And you were here sort of like you graduated in 1988 from the police academy.
I graduated from the police academy in 1988. Okay. And boy, I could tell you some stories. I have to tell you.
Please do.
So with the academy, it was one of those situations. You know how you have that parking lot that's right across the street here from the parking ramp? I can remember those days when we first started. They take you through like a pre-test. And so you have to run and so forth. And this is so that they can gauge you later on by the time you graduate from the academy. And so we were running, but what you didn't know is that the last person who came in from that run, they had us actually doing push-ups until that person came, until they arrived. And that particular day, it was raining, and so we were out in the park across the street from this ramp doing push-ups in the rain.
Oh.
And I have to tell you, I was sort of thinking at that time, Florene, are you sure you really want to do this?
I think I'd be asking myself the same question.
But I'm glad I stuck it out.
Well, that's great. What sort of memories do you have of attending Police Academy here?
Oh, gosh. I can remember the running, of course, and the push-ups. And when I think of push-ups, I think of one of our former instructors who was an LPD, Lansing Police Department officer at the time. I believe he might have been a lieutenant. We had two, but I particularly remember this one by the name of Andy George. And Andy would have us do push-ups. And they weren't your regular push-ups that you just go down and get up. Mm-hmm. Andy would have us go down. You'd have to go around, up, down. Then you have to go the opposite way. And I swear, I am not exaggerating. Before our fitness class was over with that day, we must have done 300 push-ups.
Wow.
Seriously. So I remember that. Back then also, which they don't do now, we had the box. And so we did that not once, but twice. And I remember this one guy, he's a really tall guy, his name was Paul. Every time we would box, I didn't box him, but every time we would have a boxing competition, his arm or his shoulder would become dislocated, and they would have to, put it back. And that's probably one of the reasons why now they don't have boxing in the police academy.
Okay. Did you have to box like one of the men, or were you?
No, we would.
Okay.
They would pair us with someone who was similar in height and so forth as we were, and it was against men and women against women.
Okay.
But yeah, so I remember that, and of course I'm going to go back to that running and those push-ups because we did a lot of that in the academy. The other thing I remember that I have to share with you is when we first walked into the room, they had a stack of books on the table in front of us. And it was like, wow, it got your attention. I'll just say that, because in the academy, it's a lot different than when you're like going to college and getting your college courses. Mm-hmm. This was, you have to get so much within 16 weeks. And so we were being constantly tested and so forth. And so you're constantly getting the information. You move from one topic to the next topic.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was intense.
Wow. So how was this, a 2-year program? Or how much long?
This was 16 weeks.
16?
That's what I'm saying. It was 16 weeks. And we had to wear a uniform. But like I told you, I was serious about this. And so I prepared myself. I bought a number of pants in advance, a number of shirts in advance, so I didn't have to spend time washing. I wore my hair long then, and I wore it back in a ponytail. And I was focused. My main reason for being there was to make it through that police academy. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I focused on. And my family was very supportive. My husband would always bring me lunch and so forth and meet me down there. And so I'd have my lunch and then get back to work.
Okay. Well, what do you remember? I mean, you're talking about all the physical fitness classes, but what other kind of classes? Obviously, you're cramming a lot of information.
Well, of course, you have to learn about the law. Mm-hmm. So we would have to, study for that. Mm-hmm. Report writing was another one because a lot of times people tend to think of police work and they think that you're going to be on the streets and you're going to be, doing a lot of things in terms of every officer maybe getting into gunfights or whatever. Police work is mainly communication and writing. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to write. And so they stressed a lot about report writing and communication, being able to de-escalate situations. So, yes.
Okay. You kind of mentioned one a little bit, but the instructors that stand out? And
he's the one that sticks out in my mind. When I think about the academy, I think about Andy George. There were some others in terms of class instructors. We had a Deputy Stockenauer from the county. We had Deputy Droping. whose son actually works for our department. Those are some of the ones that I remember a lot. Deputy Droping and Stockenauer and Andy George.
Okay. The academy was in downtown Lansing, the same campus at the time?
Well, the academy was downtown. At that time, you didn't have the West Campus. So, and Lansing Community College was a lot smaller than what it is right now. So, yes, it was downtown here. The parking ramp was right where it is, except for it wasn't this large. It's really grown. It's really nice.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the expansion of Lansing Community College is really a nice place.
Okay, I was going to say, and how was just the downtown area and the campus, and how has that changed?
They've changed the streets. There used to be a lot of one-ways. Now it's a lot of two-ways. So I'm still getting used to that because that's changed within the last few years.
Right.
So it's changed quite a bit. It's really grown, which is, like I said, it's a pleasure to see the growth in the college.
Okay. And when you were here, was there anything you kind of did in your free time? I mean, you were mentioning you were married at the time, so I was just wondering, was there like things you liked doing downtown or things you liked doing with friends?
I was very focused.
Okay. Well, you had 16 weeks and you had a lot to learn too.
When I was a non-traditional student, that's the other thing is I was older than the majority of the students in the academy. I don't believe they knew that at the time, but I was probably at least 10 years older than my classmates because I had worked full time. This was a career change for me. I had worked at Michigan State University. Well, I worked at the library, my very first job, which was interesting. I really liked it when I first came to the area. That was in 1974.
Okay.
And then I went over to Student Affairs and Services, and I held several positions over there.
This was at MSU.
This was at Michigan State University, right. And while I was in those positions, I was always going to school to further my education. So like I said, I was a non-traditional student. I worked full-time and I went to school part-time.
Well, that's great. Talk a little bit about when you finished here. It did say you went to city of East Lansing first?
So, yes, I was sponsored through the police academy by the city of East Lansing. So they paid not only for myself, but 2 other female classmates. So they sponsored 3 women officers. The 2 that were sponsored along with me had already worked with the city in different positions. One was a parking enforcement officer. The other was a jailer. So they were familiar with the workings of law enforcement. Me, on the other hand, I knew nothing.
Okay.
I was completely foreign. So yes, the city of East Lansing sponsored me with their department, and that was in November of 1988. And then I was recruited away and went to Michigan State University in 1990.
Okay, and you were the first African-American female police officer with both the city of East Lansing and Michigan State, correct?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, besides asking you for the catalog information, you found the article that was written about that, actually, that the Lansing State Journal had published. And so you sent that information to me as well.
Okay, I don't remember. Did I find that? Okay.
Oh, maybe you didn't.
I was gonna
maybe
say,
I contact. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm giving you credit for something you did not do.
That's okay.
What it was is I contacted the Lansing State Journal.
Okay.
To find out through their archives if they could locate that article, because remember I told you the person wanted to know if there was any type of succession in terms of how I got into police work and progressed and so forth. So I remember they interviewed me at the city of East Lansing doing a traffic stop and got the article, and so went from there.
Okay. What was that like, I guess, being the first African-American woman on the force, or the only one at that time?
Well, like I said, I hired on with 2 other female officers. They had other women officers there. Mm-hmm. In terms of being the first African-American female officer, I think the important thing is that I was an officer there with the department, and that I could represent people, girls like me, African-American girls like me, who may think about or hadn't thought about becoming a police officer. So from that standpoint, that was something I was very proud of. And I have to tell you that a lot of the people that I knew from my career at Michigan State University, they were very proud as well. And they sent me cards and letters, and they would call me and tell me how proud they were of me. And so, yeah, it was a very proud moment.
Yeah, and you were saying when you first got into a police officer, there weren't a lot of people in there that looked like you. So you were able to, right? There were
not a lot of individuals that looked like me, exactly.
Right. So you were able to represent and
represent
absolutely.
And become a role model.
Yeah, which is great. And I don't know how familiar you are with what they teach now, but how would it be different now? And actually, I remember I saw your resume. You have done some teaching too.
Yes. So early on, when I started my career, I did teach criminal justice class, criminal justice administration course at Grand Valley State University for a semester, and then I also at their police academy, which was fun. Again, having an opportunity to teach and share the knowledge that you know with others is always a benefit.
Okay. And is there any way it was different being on like the other side of that?
Yes, I would say that it's different because being on the opposite side, you're learning the information, and when you're teaching, you're sharing information, you're giving insight and so forth. You're able to ask questions or answer questions that the students may have of you.
And you've done a lot of work with the community, it sounds like, too.
Oh, yes. One of the reasons why I sort of went back to Michigan State University when I was being approached is one of the selling points was community policing. East Lansing didn't have a community policing program at the time, but Michigan State University did. And I think one of the reasons why the department was interested in me is because of my experience in working in student affairs and services. And after working, I think it was about a year or two, on the MSU Police Department, they had an opening for a community policing officer, which I applied for the assignment, and I got it and was placed over in Southwest Campus, which is Holden Case Hall, one of the larger residence halls. And the good thing about that is a lot of those people I knew already from my previous years of working with the university. And so I think it was beneficial that I was able to communicate with them. I understood how the system worked on campus. And so community policing in terms of working with the students and the faculty and staff, hey, it was a win-win for me and for the university.
Okay, great. Looking over your CV here, you were talking about, well, I'll just say, can you talk about some of your work in it was the Inclusion and Anti-Bias Unit, and then there was a Bias Incident Response Unit?
Well, the Bias Incident Response Unit is the new name, was the new name for the Inclusion and Anti-Bias Unit. Yes, the department decided in 2016 that they wanted to start this unit. And the reason for that is because we had a number of students on campus who felt they weren't being heard, and the department selected me as the individual to represent the department. So when there was any type of bias or anything of that nature that occurred, it was my responsibility to reach out to those individuals to find out what the nature of the issue was and to see how we could reduce the harm that the student was feeling. But the whole point is to make certain that the students or whoever the individual was, staff members as well, that they were heard and that they were listened to and that there was someone who cared about what they were doing. The unit also was responsible for a number of training sessions with police, not only within our police department, but within the area, because even though it was Michigan State University Police Department, we have East Lansing, who works with students. You have Bath Township, Meridian Township. All those agencies work with students. So it was a matter of offering training that all of those departments were aware of in terms of how we dealt with students. And one of the things that came out of that is a booklet that I worked with the School of Journalism on 100 questions and answers about police officers, because many people, sometimes they're a little bit intimidated by police. And so they have questions that they want to ask, but were afraid to ask. And so there was a journalism professor there, Joe Grimm, that I reached out to when I became a part of this unit. and told him, hey, I'm new at this, and I see you're doing this, and proposed this 100 questions and answers about police officers. And so that's
Great.
the end product.
I wish we had video so I could hold this up, but
But that's yours to keep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's great. What sort of questions stood out to you that you really liked answering?
Well, one of the things I would do quickly is whenever I would go to a presentation, to do a presentation, I would take index cards. And I can't take the credit for this. This was Joe's idea. But I would take index cards and I would pass them out. And I would ask the individuals to write down a question that they always wanted to know about police officers. Then I would gather those questions. And at the end of this project, Joe and I, we went through and we sorted out the cards, and like if it was questions about traffic or if it was questions about tickets, or no matter what the questions was, we would sort of organize them. And that sort of became the basis or part of the booklet and so forth. And I think the one that stood out the most would be about traffic citations, that type of thing.
Okay.
Because some people were told, always fight the ticket. Right?
Oh, okay.
Some of the high school students would say, my teacher told me I should always fight the ticket. Well, I don't think it's always a good thing, because officers oftentimes they give breaks on tickets. If you're speeding, you might be going 15 miles over the speed limit, and the officer may write you a ticket for just 5 miles over. Well, if you fight the ticket, well, the officer has already given you a break. And back then, you could sort of ask the judge if they would amend the ticket to the original. If the officer's giving you a break, be thankful and move on.
Okay, good advice. Well, to sort of wrap things up here, do you have any thoughts on your long career and your time at LCC? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to come down. I'd like to say my experience here at Lansing Community College was a very positive experience, and I think being in law enforcement has been one of the highlights of my career.
Well, great. Well, thank you for coming on today, and thank you for talking to me and for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk history. I'm Bob Garrett, Lansing Community College's archivist. I invite you to join me on a journey as I delve into the college's past and ponder its meaning. Here on Tales from the LCC Archives.